we'll move just one out to the back rowers, Capewell and Newcourt. A really tough day at the office for them. Really poor, performances. Energy sapping for Newcourt specifically. Look almost tired from the 5th minute onwards. What did you make of their performances? And I put it back to you again. Is it, do we stick with them? Obviously they are most experienced players in that position. Do we continue to trust in them, or do you and Ash have highlighted potential switch to Lecker? Are their performances that bad that you might as well put the young ones in? I'll chuck that back to you. Yeah, what's your thoughts on those two?
Well, to me, the with Lecker, it's almost a little bit like with Tane. If we're going into a rebuilding year where we're going to get these young guys in for reps, we need to make that decision early. That needs to be something we go now and we say, okay, well, look, I don't think this is going to be a year for us. Let's blood our young guys. Let's get them in the positions we want to have them for the future. And so Lecker can slide into that, to that edge spot, whichever side. I felt pretty sorry for Kurt and Murata. I think, again, when we just get pounded through the middle, they seem to kind of be, not able to shift in, whether that's because they're holding out to protect their half or something like that. And maybe it's calls for numbers and things like that from the fullback. I don't know. I think I was disappointed with Capewell. And with Murata, I thought there were a few lapses, but I think he was actually quite solid. I would have loved to see a more defensive solidity from him. But I would love to see Lecker given more time there. So maybe even pulling off a Capewell or a Murata early, say in the first half, 30 minutes in, and letting Lecker finish out the game or go 40 minutes with the halftime break, and then bringing one of those boys, say it's Murata, bringing him back through the middle, or if it's Capewell, bringing Capewell back on, shifting, Lecker to the other side and letting Murata again come back through the middle. So to me, that's where I see that as an opportunity for us. I hope that it's almost like a rust, and the ring rust is gone, and now the boys are back and ready to go. But did you have any different thoughts or?
No, I think the more I think about it, and get to the interchange issues and that, it almost feels like Webby wants to have guys on the field that can play almost 80. Because with Lecker, and I think he could tire after 30 or whatever. Let's just say he tires after 30 minutes, right? Webby, I think, feels like I feel Webby likes to keep his interchanges in his back pocket a little longer than what I would like. I've even suggested front loading your interchanges. I know it's risky, but he used 7 interchanges on Sunday. He had one in the bag still, so it's kind of that. It's I know that he's probably thinking Lecker, and that will require an extra they will require an interchange directly. And instead of having it with Lecker starting at the 30-minute mark, then Murata coming and playing 50 or whatever on the back end, he rather wants Murata to play 50 and then Lecker play 30, which is I get it but at the same time, 15 minutes of someone performing badly is not as good as 30 minutes of someone performing really well and then blowing out and then getting someone else to fill in. You know what I mean? It's kind of that.
Yeah.
I think it's a philosophy thing. I'm maybe reading into it, but I'm trying to understand why Webby keeps these interchanges so late at times. And I kind of think it's a trust issue, Yeah.
I think because he only used 2 in the first half, and it was the two middles.
Yeah.
To me, that's really weird. That's I don't think we see that quite often at all. And I thought when you look at the way you can effectively use interchanges, if you bring someone on at the 30-minute, they then have 10 minutes to go as hard as they can. Then they get a 15-minute break. So they get a free 15 minutes where they sit and do not much. and then they come back
Yep.
on and say do another 20, and they've played 30 minutes, but they've been, the other guy's got 50 minutes rest or 45 minutes rest,
Yeah.
and it's so that to me, like bringing someone on at the 30th minute, whether it's Lecker, whether it's Dimitri, and going, all right, well, you guys go as hard as you can for 10 minutes,
Yep.
and then we'll make sure you're all ready to go back out in the second half, and then in the second half be a more consistent performance, and maybe you can make it to 25 minutes, and then we'll pull you off for the last 15. That kind of thing, and that's
Yeah.
where I don't know, like I'd love to see a little bit of a difference there.
Well, let's just quickly. I'm just going to read off to you guys the changes that we made in the first half, and see. Ricky went with 4 changes in the first half. He took off Papali at 16. Took off Tapine at 25. Sorry, no. So he made 2 in the first half, and then he made 2 early in the second half as well. So, and then
Are we talking like 5 minutes in?
yeah, 5 minutes in, yes. We only had the first 2 in the first half, and then we did 3 in the kind of 10-minute period after the second half. But yeah, it just, for me, it's kind of backwards. Yeah, it's kind of, I think it's a little bit backwards sometimes. You should maybe preempt and front load more of your interchanges a little bit to compensate more, and then because sometimes what's the point of interchanges at the game when the game's already 24-4 or
Yeah,
28-8?
exactly.
Bringing on Lecker, and that at that point they have no impact. They can't. The game's dead and buried. So that's kind of just yeah. I think we're kind of looking at something here with
Yeah,
Webby.
and I mean, I'd love to see as well Lecker and Dimitri play those big minutes.
Yeah,
I think by the end of the season they probably will be, and it'll be guys that we'll be able to rely on in those situations. Um,
yeah,
I mean, as soon as Lecker Halasima came on, it was like it was what we were missing. It was impact.
yeah,
It was running hard. It was these things that you normally see from your second rowers. He was cutting in angles. I almost made a
right.
break at one point as well.
Yeah,
And it's like, this is what we need. This is the type of player we need. And if we start him, or if we bring him on in the first half, is that going to diminish his product? Like, I don't think
yeah.
so.
No, I agree. And Team Mickey's got a point here as well. Why can't they? Why can't they? Why do we think they can't go big? And we only can say that because their coaches only playing them short minutes. Really, we don't know. I think we can all probably agree they could play longer. But yeah, that just seems to be where they're sitting at the moment. And I take a win for when I can.
Mm,
Webby didn't play these guys. Now they've promoted them above Ale 4. So I take that as a win. But still, when you got to use them, you have to use them
absolutely.
a bit more effectively. But yeah, okay. Let's just quickly jump now to um, just thoughts on Fisher Harris. I know he's been copying a bit of flack from people that are obviously very, natural comparison is between him and AFB.
Mm,
They want to, and it is different. I even recognize it now that it's there. It's like, but I thought he was quite solid defensively, and it's quite. Again, he's going to be compared to an AFB who's just an out and out athlete, amazing prop forward, meters wise, all that. Do you think he's done? Do you think what he showed us is what we need and what we're looking for, and is it enough? I suppose. Yeah. What's your thoughts on Fish?
Well, I actually really liked his performance. I thought I thought he was great.
Yep. Yep. Me
He
too.
was taking some of those hard carries. He was, making his tackles, doing what he needed to do. But Adam Fanua Blake and James Harris are two completely different players, and so to compare, you know, like Fish to what Adam was doing, is like is so odd. Um,
Yeah.
like I understand, he was our number 8 last year, and this year James Fisher Harris is our number 8. So there's that comparison there. But yeah, I don't know. Like AFB to me again, he wouldn't have helped in that side, especially
Yeah.
defensively, and that's where we lacked, right?
Yeah.
With AFB, there were lapses in defense, even in the Sharks game. Not exactly providing the defensive impact they probably expect out of a middle out there
Yeah,
in Cronulla, and someone who great on attack. He scored a try, I'm pretty sure as well, which
yeah,
I was watching and I felt that little twinge in the heart because you miss that, you miss him scoring tries for us, but it's weird. I don't think the Sharks actually used him that effectively. Um, I don't think he was the best that they could use him, and it almost felt like they were missing out on his potential. Obviously, it's his first game with them,
yeah,
but then again, on the flip side, it's James's first game with us, and so to say, Fisher Harris didn't play well or isn't adding, and we're going to suffer without him, like that's not at all what Fisher Harris is there for. Fisher Harris is there to be our leader for years to come, to bring these young boys through as well, and provide a solid, also leadership in premierships. That
yeah,
premiership knowledge and experience, like that's something we desperately need in this team.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I don't know. To me, he played well. I see he didn't miss a tackle.
yeah,
I just wish him and Barnett played different minutes. Even if we're extending Barnett out and letting Fish have
okay,
that early rest, and then bringing Fish back on earlier in the second,
yeah,
um, and letting Barnett extend to 30 minutes rather than, I think it was like 22 or something like that they both played in the first stint, and then they went off together. Um,
yeah.
I think kind of staggering them a little bit again keeps that leadership on the field and has that hole gone for the least amount of time.
Yeah, I think Mitch came off at 21 and then Fish at 25, 24. Yeah, you could probably push one of those two out to maybe 29, 30.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, and then I think Barnett came on in 50 and then Fish at 59. So, yeah, yeah. I agree with you, bro. But I had no fault with him. I watched it again, the tape, and he was solid, man. He was solid
Hmm.
defensively, doing everything he could to make sure that we were, trying to control the ruck, all those types of things. So I like him. I just think he needs more support. I think he needs to have an Aaron Clark, that unit with him and
Hmm.
Barnett and Egan. Um, I think that's a better unit in the
Absolutely, that
middle.
should be our
Yeah.
starting middle there.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I just want to touch on, a lot of people are chucking missed tackles in the
Yeah.
in the comments. Do you know if like say someone offloads, if that counts as a missed tackle?
That's a good point. I don't know how they make those stats.
Because
I don't.
seeing
Yeah, yeah,
21-1 was so like, it didn't feel like that at all. Like I think it was like 25 minutes into the game or something, or like 30 minutes into the game, and it was like 21 missed tackles from us to 1 from them, and it was like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
That
That's a
doesn't
good
feel like
point.
that.
Actually, someone, if someone in the chat knows about that too. That does seem ridiculously high for a short period, and possession was quite even. I don't notice
Mm,
anything that was, but it is an interesting stat because yeah, maybe if they added those up, I mean, there was a ton of offloads. I counted maybe 7 or 8, and
yeah.
maybe they counted those as missed tackles. Yeah, very interesting. I don't. Yeah, that's quite misleading in many ways if that's true.
Mm.